All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Philly Experience podcast. My name's Max Kretzula, joined by Tanner Gilmartin and Tyre Hood. Guys, I think one of the biggest things here before we get into all this stuff in the previous week that we just went through, obviously the Joel Embiid injury we want to mention today. We want to touch on the Phils and how poorly they've been playing. Those are the two major things we want to discuss today. But before we get into it, I got to ask you guys not only how you're doing, but also, man, Joel Embiid, what was the thought process when he went down with that knee injury?
Oh shit. I can't. There's literally nothing else that was going through my mind. It was literally like, oh no, there goes my parade down Broad Street. He's okay, but we'll get into that a little later.
Honestly, my thoughts weren't as dramatic. I thought maybe just a little shaken up. I was thinking he would return maybe in the fourth. But for me, maybe they decided to now I know he gets an MRI today. Maybe they decided to keep him out of the contest. You're looking at it, it's not the most important game for the Sixers. And Joel Embiid, obviously the most important player for the Sixers, maybe to keep him out of the contest, make sure he doesn't get re-injured, and just start again next game, game 5.
Well, I will say this before we go further with the Sixers. I got to say, I'm rocking the Phils hat. I know a lot of people out there are down about it too. You got the jersey on. I'm not down on this team yet. I'm not. I know a lot of people want to throw in the towel, but listen, we'll dive in that discussion second part of the show. I just wanted to throw that out there for our viewers who are watching us. I'm still with this squad. Hopefully, you guys are too, but we'll touch on that later on. As far as the Sixers go, 122-114 loss the previous night to the Wizards. You have, obviously Russell Westbrook doing his thing with all the triple-double and blah, blah, whatever. I mean, he shot 3 of 19 from the floor. I think that third quarter, when we finished up and we were heading to the fourth, that third quarter, we were outscored 32-19. That's pretty much what killed us. We came out pretty flat out of the halftime. Fourth quarter, we had some flashes from a few players. We had flashes of, Furkan Korkmaz hitting a couple big shots. We know Tyrese Maxey had a nice big dunk and also a couple steals, I believe. So he was playing well. George Hill had a pretty efficient game, had a couple threes in the corner there, and was able to get to the free throw line. But, the end of the game there, and I know this is where T comes in, he wants to rip Ben Simmons, of course, missing a ton of free throws. He shot 5 of 11 from the free throw line. And a lot of people want to come out today and talk about Ben Simmons as far as should Doc Rivers have either pulled him out of the game late in the ball game or just let Ben Simmons continuously get fouled and put at the free throw line. Now, coming into the series, coming into game 4, he was 0 for 10 and was able to finally make his first free throw last night, late in that fourth quarter when he went to the free throw line. But when you think about just the game in general and kind of take it any direction you want to go, if you want to just start with the Ben Simmons drama at the end or kind of look big picture here, where does your mind take you first?
Okay, well, I'm just gonna rip this Band-Aid off right now.
Sounds like we know where T's going first.
You should know automatically where I was going. Ben Simmons is useless. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Ben Simmons is straight up useless. All right, no uncertain terms. I don't care at this point. Don't care. Tanner, don't send me no more goddamn videos. Don't do it no more. I'm done. Look, Ben Simmons single-handedly cost us the game yesterday with his inevitability of not shooting from any damn where, not just from the field, but from the goddamn free throw line. This is absolutely ridiculous. Seriously, 6 of 11. 5 of 11. 5 of 11 from the free throw line. Are you freaking kidding me? That's points. 6 free points. That's 2 threes. All right. That's 3 shots from the field goal, but they were free, uncontested, unblocked. What the hell? Seriously. And we had a nerve to pay this man a max contract? Elton Brand, you stinking idiot. Are you bleeping kidding me? This is, I'm so frustrated. If Ben Simmons, that's the one thing that holds him back. I said this from the very beginning of the playoffs. I said the Sixers can go as far as Ben Simmons can take them. Why? Because he is going to be the blessing and the curse of this Sixers team. It unfortunately is coming to fruition. Now, the first 3 games, we did not have to worry about the Hackabin because the Sixers were dominating the Wizards. It wasn't until last night, as we're recording this, all right, Monday night, when the Sixers had a chance to close out the series. They had a chance to sweep this team for the first time in the franchise long tenured time in existence. All right. You had the chance to close doors. I understand Embiid got hurt. All right. Everybody got scared when Embiid got hurt. But when Embiid gets hurt, that means I need my other superstars who I'm paying this money to, all this money to step up to the plate. That means Tobias Harris. I need you to step up. Ben Simmons, I sure as hell need you to step up. All right. I've seen what you can do without Embiid on the floor. This is a man who scored over 40 points in a game when Embiid wasn't playing and completely dominated the game with just his sheer presence, with just him dominating in the paint, just driving to the lane, driving to the hoop. This is ridiculous. This is horrible that I can't get this. I can't get that type of production out of my superstar when my franchise player goes down. I need this out of these players. All right. There's no excusing Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris even admitted, look, didn't have the best game, didn't step up. Ben Simmons, on the other hand, everybody wants to make excuses for him. Look. And why is Doc Rivers making excuses for Ben Simmons, but he criticized Tobias Harris in his post-conference last night? Look, I got some of the notes right here. So, of course, everybody was going in about Ben Simmons and his production. All right. This is what Doc Rivers said. You guys keep this Ben Simmons narrative going, which is freaking insane. Ben is not a 40-point guy. I just don't understand why this is not sinking in this city. If I'm Ben, I'm getting tired of it. He also goes on to say, Ben, we are going to keep him on the floor, talking about Ben Simmons, possibly taking Ben Simmons off in a close game in the playoffs. Unless you guys want us to bench him the whole game. If anybody wants us to do that, just let me know. Then I'll know you don't know basketball. Now you got nerve to be getting chippy. Doc, you're a smart dude. Doc, you're a smart dude. You know better. Doc, it does not take the smartest person in the world to understand that Ben Simmons is a liability at the end of the games. And you finally saw that come to fruition last night. Finally. And unfortunately, it turned out bad for the Sixers. This needs to be fixed. I'm sorry. You cannot have Ben Simmons out there on the court at the end of games. You can't do it. It's going to lose you games in the playoffs. And God forbid, like last night, you don't have Embiid. This is going to cost you against close games. When we go up against Milwaukee or when we go up against Brooklyn, this is going to cost you. If Ben Simmons does not step up in some way, shape, or form on this team will not go to the NBA Finals. I'm done.
Sheesh. Okay, T. I mean, I'm not gonna go as far as T here. I don't think Ben Simmons is useless. I think he's definitely a valuable asset on that. Max, we were here maybe 2 years ago when T and Chris wanted to trade Ben Simmons for a pack of cookies or whatever it was. But for me, okay, Ben Simmons had a very bad game, a noticeably bad game in an important time in the game. At the free throw line, we mentioned it before when he sucked at the free throw line. I believe he went 0 of 6. Was that game 1? Mm-hmm. And that's when I said, I hope he's just staying in the gym for hours and hitting those free throws until he's comfortable with the amount that he's hit. But he was relatively good at the free throw line midway through the season. And now the playoffs come around and he just cannot make a free throw. It's like Shaq stepping up to the line now. And Ben Simmons is a much better player than that. And for this, T, you're right. For this Sixers team to be able to win, Ben Simmons has to be on his game. I think the only difference made is when it comes to crunch time like this, maybe take Ben Simmons off the court. But for Doc Rivers to get really aggravated with reporters and the questions and interviews like this, I don't think that's the right approach because this is a problem and it needs to be addressed. And Ben Simmons is a guy who by game 3, he was averaging 14 points a game, over 9 rebounds a game, and over 10 assists per game in these 3 games. he had an off game, but it definitely is noticeable how bad he is at the free throw line, and that needs to be fixed.
It's the playoffs. I mean, listen, it's the playoffs. It's a lot different. I mean, that's the key word here. You do whatever you want during the regular season. You want to put up 9 rebounds. You want to put up 8 assists. You want to put up 20 points. You want to put up 42 points against the Jazz on the road. Go ahead, do that. But everything is magnified in the playoffs.
Right.
Tobias Harris, same thing. And I think the thing with Ben Simmons is when he does stuff in the regular season, it kind of teases us down the stretch and things that we come accustomed to as far as, oh, we saw it once. Why can't he do that more consistently? I think that's where the frustration lies.
Right. And it can't be good for his confidence when a team is deliberately targeting him to hit the line because he is so awful at it. And he has to know it. And I hope he really is staying on the court late, shooting free throws, because how else is he going to get better?
And what you should do, you know what you should do? Work on it. If it's a mental block in your head, that's what's going on, then seek whatever mental help that you need to get to unblock yourself from whatever's stopping you from becoming this great player. The reason why Ben Simmons got paid all that money and the reason why we put a whole lot of pressure on Ben Simmons is because we see the damn potential. There's a reason why people are calling him the next LeBron. I hate doing that. I hate comparing players to players. But it's true. If Ben Simmons develops a jump shot, he will be unstoppable. And that right there is the main issue. He knows this, and he's got to know this in the back of his head. And if it frustrates you, and if it bothers you that teams are going to start pinpointing you as a weakness, you know what you should do? Hit the goddamn gym. Hit the gym. Do better.
There's definitely some mental fear for Ben Simmons. I think another thing you have to look at is the habits, right? This is 5 years now. One of them was injured, or he was injured. I get that. But the longer you continue with bad habits, it's just like anything else. You continue to smoke and become a smoker 5, 8, 7, 8. It's harder to break. It's harder to break those habits. And without shooting that jump shot, mid-range 3-ball in the regular season, that's where you got to work on your game. And the longer he goes in his career without doing it, the harder it is. I can see with him, trying to or even be willing to take that jump shot. But one of the things I think I have to point out also is Ben Simmons on the road is a different player than when he's at home. They had an interview with Joel Embiid that the national guys had him on a couple games ago. I think game 2, maybe game 3 of the series. They said, what is it about playing on the road that you like? He's like, I feel like I play better on the road because I need to bring that energy when those fans boo me and things like that. We actually heard MVP chants in an opposing team's arena the other night. And I think with Ben Simmons, we see him on the fast break. We see him throw dunks down at home at the Wells Fargo Center. We see him flex on people, scream, yell, things like that. But when he's on the road, I feel like it's a different animal. I don't see that same kind of intensity. And you have the inconsistency problem as well. Like Tanner mentioned, 0-6 from the free throw line, 6 points in game 1, comes back 22 points, looks like a completely different player in game 2. And I think another thing about it is we don't want to play the Wizards 5 times. I know Joel Embiid got hurt. I get it. But we're still a better team, even with Joel Embiid, than the Wizards, in my opinion. I get it. They have 2 superstar players. But at the end of the day, that's a game where when you're trying to go up against Milwaukee, who, listen, they made quick work of the Miami Heat in the first round, quicker work than I expected. I think you guys probably as well. Brooklyn, they lost a game to Boston. They got to play an extra game against the Celtics that I'm sure they don't want to have to play. And now the Sixers have to play another game against the Wizards, which I understand. Joel Embiid got hurt, and that's the thing we have to mention with his health. But at the end of the day, it's not a situation where you want to have to play that extra game, especially with the health of Joel Embiid and just being able to get that rest. We came in here pretty well rested with our last regular season game. I think with the Orlando Magic and then having maybe a 5 to 7 game layoff as far as in between when we started the playoffs and when the regular season ended. And I think going forward now with Ben Simmons, free throw shooting is my thing. I think with the 3-point shooting and the field goal percentage at this point, the longer we go, the less we expect Ben Simmons to shoot the basketball. And I think I'm a little with Tanner's point is I know that he brings so much to the table. See, I get it. I know you're thinking about that potential where if he just develops that shot, he can be a top 5 player in the league. So I see both sides of the argument here. But when we look at today, present day today against the Washington Wizards, game 4, that's present day right now, not future, not past. I really just wanted Ben Simmons to be able to shoot the free throw percentage at a higher clip because if you're not going to be able to shoot the 3, if you're not going to be able to shoot the midi, you want to get your assist, get your rebounds, go ahead. But if they put you on the free throw line, and you're supposed to be a superstar player, you're supposed to be a max player, you're supposed to be a leader, you got to be able to go up there and make 80% at the free throw line. Not 100%. I mean, I get it. You're going to miss some. But when what is he shooting, around 60% from the free throw line? Maybe even worse than that. I think you just have to be able to get up to that 80% clip. And that just speaks to, is he working enough in the offseason in the gym?
I think he is working enough in the offseason. I'm not going to question his work ethic. I'm not. As much as it pisses me off when Tanner does send those videos to me, I'm not going to question the fact that he's not working. I do think, though, that there's some sort of mental block going on with Ben Simmons. The thing of it is, the great ones have to overcome those things. He's good, but I want Ben Simmons to be great. This team needs him to be great. This team, that's the only way this team is even going to even sniff the finals, let alone win in the finals. Ben Simmons has got to be great. We know what we're going to expect out of Joel Embiid. For the most part, we know what we're going to expect out of Tobias Harris. It's Ben Simmons. We know what he's got. We know the type of game that he brings. We know that he's a facilitator on offense. We know he's the one that gets the offense going. Love that about him. I love the fact that he's a defender as well. He is willing to defend any and everybody he goes up against. I'm not arguing that. He's the great ones somehow or some way are able to tap into like this reserve of game that when it's needed for their team, boom, they tap into it and they will their team to victory. I need to see that out of Ben Simmons. I see it in him. I just need him to bring that out. And whatever mental blocks is going on that he needs to overcome, dude, you got to do what you got to do to overcome it, because otherwise you're just another liability on the team. And quite honestly, it's the scenario last night that kind of convinced me and Chris about what we said those years ago about Ben Simmons. Honestly, it's this scenario right here presenting itself. I can find another facilitator who does the same thing Ben does to a certain degree. I can find another point, an actual point guard. But I know the potential Ben Simmons has. I'm not saying that I'm giving up on him. I'm not. I'm not there yet. But it's scenarios like this that really irritate me and brings me close to that point.
I think the thing with Ben Simmons is that he already has the 3-point playing against him. He can't shoot the three. And now you add on to the free throws. And it's because the weaknesses are starting to stack on top of each other that it's becoming more apparent that Ben Simmons has a problem. Why doesn't he develop a jump shot yet? Why is he so bad at the free throw right now? And people start to ignore that he is up for Defensive Player of the Year. The amount of change he puts into a game just on the defensive side of the ball. He's a special player, and it's not unwarranted for people to be concerned about how Ben Simmons is playing right now because of the free throw. But I think maybe people are pressing the panic button a little too soon, and then that's just my opinion. I don't know how you think, Max.
Well, I agree. I think people are pushing the panic button too soon, but there's a lot of people in the media that say, listen, relax. It's one game. Let's get them in game 5. We're going to beat this team in 5 games. Who cares? I'm on the other side of the coin with that. I wanted to step on this team's neck, beat them in 4 games, and move on. And I get some people are like, we got 3 games to spare. I'm telling you right now, playing extra games in the playoffs, it takes a toll on it. You've already played 72 games in the regular season. The thing that bothers me is it's the Wizards. I mean, it's the Wizards. If this is a game where you're facing Brooklyn, you're trying to knock them out in 6 games. We got to force it 7. That's tough. The Washington Wizards are a team you just got to beat. Here's the thing I want to bring up, because we hear a lot of things in the media, and I don't want to be, I don't want the podcast to be everything what other people say. I want to bring up a point here and see if you guys agree with it. Robin Lopez last night plays 19 minutes, scores 16 points when Joel Embiid gets hurt, going up against an undersized Mike Scott. Shoots 8 of 11 from the field. Alex Len and Anthony Gill, 2 guys off their bench. They play 1 minute and 2 minutes respectively. They go with a 3-man bench with Neto, Ish Smith, and Robin Lopez. So let me bring this question up to you guys. If Tony Bradley's a Sixer last night, did the Sixers win that game?
It definitely increases the possibility, because I tell you something right now. Mike Scott ain't. All right. Mike Scott is useless. That's who I really should have said was useless. I was a little angry when I came on. Mike Scott is completely useless. All right. What is the point of having Mike Scott on an NBA court at this point. Man can't shoot. Man can't defend. Man can't even be an enforcer when we need to when somebody's bullying one of our superstars. Mike Scott is useless as a tonsil. All right. Mike Scott ain't shit. All right. Straight up point blank. Tony Bradley helped out immensely. Yes. Could he have been the difference between us celebrating the fact that we swept the Wizards versus us having to play the Wizards on Wednesday night? Hell yeah.
Yeah, the answer to your question, Max, is yes. This would have been a different game if the Sixers had Tony Bradley. And to T's point about Mike Scott, it's bad when Mike Scott checks into the game and you're like, oh, I forgot about Mike Scott. He's not the same Mike Scott as 2 seasons ago, how he was really important when the Sixers got him. And I really don't see the reason. And we don't see the production from Mike Scott.
There's multiple points to the argument because you have on the flip side of the coin, you have George Hill played really well last night, 3 of 5 from behind the arc. You say to yourself, all right, if we give up Tony Bradley, of course we get George Hill, but if we keep Tony Bradley, we don't get George Hill. My question to you guys is, we've seen Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton going completely opposite directions this season. Shake Milton started out hot and he's completely fallen off a cliff as the months went on in the regular season. Now in the playoffs, he can't even score the basketball at all. Tyrese Maxey started out pretty slowly, didn't even really get playing time, so I can't really blame the guy. But as he's gotten more and more incorporated into the offense, he's taken leaps and bounds in his game. And I feel like if we were sitting here today, back at that trade deadline, do you think we pull the trigger on that Tony Bradley deal, knowing that we have, at this point, Tyrese Maxey, a pretty competent backup point guard, probably not as good of a shooter as George Hill is, but a guy that can defend at a high level. He's really active and quick and can still score at a high level. Because I know people want to sit here and say Tony Bradley, Joel Embiid gets hurt, he goes down. The Sixers have no shot in hell of winning anyway, which is a good point. Of course, your MVP candidate gets hurt, you're really not going to beat the Nets or the Bucks. But in a situation like last night, Tony Bradley helps you in that situation. You don't have to probably go to a game 5 against a pretty shitty team. Let's be honest with ourselves. So at the end of the day, I heard, not just me personally, but around, we hear these other media outlets and things like that. When Tony Bradley traded, I wasn't the only one who really liked Tony Bradley. I know you guys did too. And when we got George Hill, of course, that was kind of around the time we were thinking about, maybe Kyle Lowry comes to Philly, maybe. But we ended up getting rid of Tony Bradley. And I thought, Dwight Howard, God forbid something happens to Joel Embiid. And this is one of those situations where if he's done for the year, of course, it's a completely different story. But he's only done for hopefully 1 game and missed it. But it's a completely different situation where you have Dwight Howard, who we know is a bench guy. I mean, at this point in his career, he's older. Tony Bradley, of course, was starting when Joel Embiid would miss games earlier in the season. So for you guys, I just wanted to raise that question. I know it's probably a little ridiculous. Probably people are listening to this like, oh, Tony Bradley, you're really going to throw this on the Sixers? But yeah, I am throwing a little bit game 4 on the Sixers as far as if we had some backup talent, the outcome might have been different. I want to ask you guys this last point here before we move on. And talk about this rotation. Of course, you guys can take it and add anything on before your final thoughts. But I want to talk to you guys about the rotation because I kind of mentioned it a little bit there with Scott Brooks, who I think he's got a lot of flack, of course, former Oklahoma City Thunder head coach. He's really made some adjustments in the series to help his team as best he can. Of course, he's really undermanned as far as talent-wise, but he shortened his bench. Alex Len was getting a hell of a lot more minutes early on in the series. He only played 1 minute last night. Robin Lopez, of course, got a little bit more time on the court. But for Doc Rivers, you want to look at last night, I think he went 11 or 12 deep. And let me read it off to you right now. I got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players came in the game last night for the 76ers. That includes Milton, Korkmaz, Thibault, Howard, Scott, Maxey, and George Hill. Now, a lot of that could be due to the fact Joel Embiid got hurt. People need to do a little shifting and changing. I get that. But at the end of the day, would you like to see Doc Rivers maybe shrink that bench? Or do you think to yourselves, we're playing the Wizards, maybe we just need more players to get more time and kind of spread out the minutes?
Shrink that bench, man. Shrink that bench, man. You had Mike Scott last night who played 17 minutes and didn't score a goddamn thing. All right. Shrink the bench. All right. If you got to run Dwight Howard into the ground. All right. At least I know what I'm getting on defense. I already know
run him into the ground too.
Let me tell you something. At least I know what I'm getting from him at the free throw line and from the field. I know what I'm getting out of him. But I also know where he contributes, and that is defensively in the paint. And that's what I need when Joel Embiid's out. All right. Mike Scott ain't shit. All right. He didn't do anything for me last night. As a matter of fact, he was another liability. That's all I'm saying. Look, George Hill contributed with 14 points. You obviously gonna give him minutes. All right. Thibault on the defensive side of the ball, his shooting starting to really get really good as well. He went 3 from 6, 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. All right. Korkmaz actually contributed a little bit. Shake about to get no minutes at all at this rate. All right. Shake got to get himself together. Seriously.
I think Thibault at 15 minutes, I think he needs more. I mean, we give up 122 points to the Wizards. I feel like that's unacceptable. I think Thibault playing 15 minutes wasn't enough. I think he should be out there more. He's I think he's one of the better defenders in the league. To be honest with you, not only on our team, but I would have liked to see him out there. I know his offensive game still is coming to him. He's getting his feet under him. As time goes on, I think he'll get a lot better. But I don't want to see Korkmaz out there anymore. I don't want to see Shake Milton out there anymore. I don't want to see Mike Scott out there anymore, of course. But, I mean, Korkmaz is one of those players where, listen, he'll have a game where he looks like, wow, this guy is a legit rotational piece. Then he'll have a game where he airballs a couple threes. Last night in the fourth quarter, I'll give him credit. He had a couple nice baskets. He had a big three. He had a nice running floater on the baseline. But then when it's crunch time, when we need him to knock down a wide open three from the top of the key, he misses it. And basically at that point, the game was out of reach.
Can you imagine having Matisse Thybulle as like a Klay Thompson piece? Like seriously, because that's where I envision him with the way he plays defense. And if he really gets that outside 3-point shot together, like he can straight up be a Klay Thompson for us. And
3 and D player.
Yes. Like that is severely needed on this team. If Thybulle can really hit that 3-point shot, especially develop it in the offseason, oh my God.
I would just want to say this real quick before I get Tanner's final thoughts on the subject. Remember, we traded away Zaire Smith from Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith. Just remember that.
Oh God,
he's a solid 3 and D player with the Suns right now. We could really use him. Go ahead, Tanner. Last thoughts here.
Okay. I think the bench can be limited a little bit, but you go to Furkan Max, and he just missed one 3-point shot. He was 50%. But guys like Mike Scott, they don't deserve to be on the court. And there's a much better way to earn points on the court than have Mike Scott out there just taking up space. And we can't really run Dwight Howard to the ground yet, because we don't know how Joel Embiid's going to do. But I'll tell you what, in game 5, Bertans, he's out. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with his injury. So that's going to help a little bit. I mean, this is a guy who really struggled the first game, 0 points. And then he fouled out, but he started picking up. I believe he had 15 points in game 4 in this last game. So that's going to help the Sixers out a little bit. But for the Wizards to try to match up against the Sixers with height and stuff like that, it hasn't really worked. But this game, you go into the first half of this past game 4, and the Sixers were 27% from 3. That's definitely got to pick up. And that's for the future too, for the next round to come. You have to start out strong with the 3, because then teams are going to utilize that against you, and they're going to be using the 3, and they're going to be covering you up on defense, and it's going to be a hard game for the Sixers. And this is a team that's really excelled in the 3 when they want to, but they pick up guys like you have Tobias Harris. You give him the amount of money that the Sixers gave him to be that 3-point shooter. You already have Ben Simmons, who doesn't shoot from 3. Joel Embiid can. He's a center. He really shouldn't be the guy that you're dishing out to on the arc to shoot that 3. But it happens. You got Shake Milton, who used to be that guy, and other guys around that. The 3 is, in my opinion, the most important shot.
Of course. I think one thing before we get out of here and talk about and move on, I should say, to the Phillies is the fact that the Hawks are no pushover. It's looking like we're going to have to face them in the next round. They got Trae Young, they got John Collins, DeAndre Hunter. They got some legit pieces there. I think they could give the Sixers problems. We'll see what happens with Joel Embiid. I think obviously if he plays, I think the Sixers are a finals contender. And if he doesn't, there's no question they could lose in the next round against the Atlanta Hawks. But for now, we'll leave it there. Come back next week. Hopefully talk about a Sixers win against the Wizards in their series, and maybe 1 or 2 against the Atlanta Hawks at that point, depending on if they can get past the New York Knicks. From one team that's pretty hot in this town right now to a team that's really not is the 25-29 Phillies. I know this is a team we haven't really dove a ton deep into in recent weeks, but today we figure, you know what, it's time. It's really time to talk about this Phillies team. And you
End
look
it off.
at, every week talk about the hitting. The hitting struggle last week. The pitching struggle last week, but they get back on track. This is going on, 2-3 weeks now where the Phillies have not hit. They haven't really pitched consistently as well. And it's time to look at Joe Girardi. And I think mutually, from a fan base standpoint, because there's definitely people who look at Joe Girardi and don't like him. For whatever reason, they don't like Joe Girardi. He has the winning pedigree in New York, but it's almost like people expect so much out of Joe Girardi, being probably one of the better managers over the past decade with wins and things like that. But with you guys right here, we want to pinpoint issues, and I guess I'll start and introduce everything, because you look at injuries. That we'll get to start with the injuries. You have Bryce, who's injured, hasn't really been the same player since he got hit in the face a couple weeks ago. JT's been out 2 weeks. He's just getting his feet back underneath of him, coming back into the lineup and catching. Rhys Hoskins, not injured, but playing better baseball as of late. So I want to give him a quick shout out for, being almost a leader when people are out. Didi Gregorius is a guy we haven't really heard anything in the media about. We see him working on the field. He's fielding ground balls, but he can't really throw because he's still got, that elbow issue. So when you look at the lineup and what we've had to put out there, it's really not ideal. But this thing's spiraling out of control quickly for this team. And I want to ask you guys, the issues go in multiple directions, but the number one issue for this team right now is what?
Ooh. Well, if you want my personal opinion, the number one thing that's harping this team, no pun intended, I'm not talking about Bryce Harper yet. It's accountability, honestly. There's no accountability with this Phillies team at all. There is none. If a player is struggling, that player will stay in that position. They will continue playing, and Girardi will not make a change. Now, I understand it's not really a whole lot of people that you can really go to on the bench, but damn it, you got to do something to change this lineup up. Like, it shouldn't have taken this long for Andrew McCutchen to finally drop in the lineup. It should not have taken this long. The man is batting below 200. Why has it taken this long to drop him in the lineup? If you're supposed to be this coach this manager that we expect you to be, this World Series winning coach, and manager, and it should not take a rocket scientist to kind of shift the rotation around. Okay, Rhys Hoskins just recently dropped in the rotation as well, and from the statistics that I looked up, from the spot that he bats at now, he bats over 300 from that spot. Just, all I'm saying is do something, damn it. More like, where's the accountability of, okay, player one, you're not doing very well. Listen, I'm dropping you the rotation. Hey, player one, you ain't playing too hot. I'm gonna sit you down for a couple of games. I'm gonna let you get yourself together. Like, I'm sorry, I know we don't have, like I said, I know we don't have a real deep bench anymore because we're riddled with injuries. But damn it, come on, let's do something. Do something, Joe Girardi. This is why I kind of put more pressure on Joe Girardi. And then to make matters worse, the defense on this team is still not being fixed. Accountability. What is Joe Girardi doing? Accountability. What are you doing with these guys that they're not fielding the ball? They can't throw to us. They can't throw a simple out. They can't catch a wide open fly ball. I don't understand it. I accountability. Everything goes back to accountability. Or let's say, for example, I forget what team they was playing, but James Segura missed on the ball and he just sits there on the ground on his ass. Accountability.
It was the Red Sox.
The Red Sox. Yet and still, James Segura didn't get disciplined at all. All I'm saying is that's the number one issue. Accountability. Guys start getting accountable. Guys start getting penalized for things that they're supposed to do. Guys start dropping in the lineup. The light bulb's going to start going off. Start changing some things. Accountability.
My thing is, when a team's struggling on one side, and say offensively, the defensive side of the ball needs to improve much more, but you don't have players to do so. If they're struggling in the box, how are they going to be able to pick it up on defense over there, say in the outfield? That's terrible. You got Scott Kingery over there running in the walls. And it's just embarrassing to watch some of these games. It really is. It's like watching Little League. in some points of the game. Why is Aaron Nola starting a game where the Phillies lose 11-3? You're already out. You mentioned Harper, JT, Gene Segura, and Didi. And why now are our aces struggling to pitch too? And I mean, we were so high on Aaron Nola. We had confidence coming in the season, and he really hasn't been impressive. And yeah, once one side of the ball, like you're like a team struggling batting, they got to pick it up on defense. But now it's just both. They suck batting, they make mistakes in field, so you're not getting any help as a team.
Yeah, look defensively is a good point because I think that's where accountability, of course, is a great point. So I think that's kind of where it starts, upper management, things like that. But when you put the product on the field, you got to expect that these major leaguers get the job done. Alec Bohm at third base I think he's leading the league in errors. I believe he's definitely leading the Phillies in errors. I think he actually has more errors than home runs this year as well, which is a huge issue. But I think when you look at JT behind the plate, of course, he's a stone lock and one of the better defensive catchers, if not the best in the league. Rhys Hoskins gets a lot of flack defensively. I don't think he's that bad of a defender. I've seen, him bobble a few ground balls to first that eat him up a little bit, but he's done a hell of a job picking some terrible throws from third, especially with Bohm, to first base and picking them out of the dirt. I think, he's had his struggles at defensively, but overall he's pretty average. Segura is, I feel like he has a talent. He's just lazy at second base. His throws, the way he feels the ball. Who it reminds me of? A lot of Robinson Cano in a way where, Cano is a Hall of Fame player, and of course you can't compare him to Gene Segura, but I'm just talking about the attitude, the way he plays, where it's almost like he doesn't even try. It's just like everything's like, oh, let me just, pop fly, get out there.
You know what it reminds me of, Max? It reminds me of in Little League when that kid is sitting there in the field picking flowers. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, well, there's that too, and that's kind of where he was. What T brings up, where he was sitting in the infield watching. Then you have Herrera in center field, who's been solid as far as offensively and I guess defensively. If you want to make that argument, go ahead. I mean, can't get much worse as a team defensively than what they are now. But Andrew McCutchen has destroyed this team at the top of the lineup, and also in left field has not played great defensively. Another thing with McCutchen, before I go off on a little rant here, I don't want to get crazy into it, but can you just throw the ball back into the infield? Do you guys see that? When there's a ball hit to left field, he picks it up and he just stands there and he like wait, or now I'll throw it back in. Like a runner the other day, I thought he had a legit shot of picking the ball up in left field. I forget. I think they were playing Tampa Bay, and he picks it up, and I'm thinking, oh, sling this thing to second base. This guy is trying to stretch a single into a double. We got to play at second base. Picks it up. He's pump faking that. I'll throw it to Bohm at third. Just make sure. I think you got to just play a little bit more aggressive than that. And Bryce being out in right field, we have Scott Kingery hurt. He's not an option. Roman Quinn's now hurt. He's not an option. Mickey Moniak isn't good enough. He's not an option. So you're really stuck with who? A utility man and Brad Miller out there defensively. Or if you want to run Matt Joyce, who I don't even think should be in the league anymore, but it is what it is. That's where your problem lies. When the team isn't hitting, you look at the categories right now across the team. Rhys Hoskins leads in batting average at 265. He leads in home runs with 11. He leads in RBIs with 31. He leads in on base percentage 336, and he leads the team in hits with 53. You got one guy leading the team in all those categories. You really wish somebody else would step up and be able to help contribute. You have Andrew McCutchen and Alec Bohm barely over the 200 mark right there. They're really flirting with that Mendoza line, almost hitting under 200. And those are two guys that you thought coming into the season would produce at a high level for you offensively. We finally recently saw Joe Girardi try to make a change at the top of the lineup and move Andrew McCutchen out of there. That still hasn't seemed to work. And I haven't even gotten to the pitching yet. But when you have Vince Velasquez come in and you expect, oh, wow, Vince, 5 straight starts of him going, I believe, 5 or 6 innings or more. That's great. And then he comes in against the Reds yesterday and gets his doors blown off. So inconsistency. And I think when you look big picture this season, of course, they're 25 and 29. It's not over yet, right? It's not that. I mean, baseball is a thing where you play 162 games for a reason. But they better get this thing turned around in a hurry and try to get healthy, or else we could be looking at one of the worst seasons in recent memory.
Yeah. Honestly, and that's not a stretch to say, unfortunately. It's another thing that bothers me that I wanted to bring up with you guys, and it kind of ties into my little rant with Bryce Harper as well. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm attacking your boy, Max. I don't care. He's getting a part of this too.
Oh,
boy.
we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, he's getting he's getting into the two. So look, my thing is this. Why is everybody going for the home run swing? What is wrong with just getting the first base? What is wrong with just getting a goddamn double? What is wrong with just putting the ball in the field? I see so many shifts against this team. Why is there nobody practicing swinging on the opposite end of that on the opposite end of
They strike out a ton, T. And I want to tell you the stat too. I got to say this stat.
Swinging for the fences.
I agree with you. The Phils have played 54 games this year. I believe they've had 25 or 26 games where they've actually struck out 10 or more times. So they don't put the ball in play. Now, one thing, and I want to go to Tanner after this, of course, I want to see this team not only put the ball in play, but get the runners home. I think they've done a good job for the most part of getting some hits, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hits a game, especially lead off the inning. That killed us a couple. And I know we played the Reds the other day. That killed us against the Reds. We got a couple of guys. I think 3 straight innings. We got the leadoff guy on. I think it was a single 1 inning and then 2 doubles. So you're basically got a runner on second base, nobody out. I'm sorry, but that run has to come home. You got a runner on second base, nobody out. You got to move that runner over. The Phils have done a terrible job of getting the runners home, especially with, the little things, bunting, sacrifice flies, when there's 1 out and a runner on third. They haven't been able to do the little things to push runs across. And I get it. In an 11-1 blowout, those little things don't matter. But if you get those runs early in games, that could swing the tide of momentum in your favor.
Yeah, look, we could keep going in on this Phillies team, how awful they are. I mean, the month of May has been brutal for this team, 12 and 16 in May. And that's to say without, in the most part, Harper, JT, DD, Gene. But, this team needs to get on it. Max, you're right. It's this team. They're not over yet. They still got a lot of baseball left to play. 25 and 29. That's the worst season since 2017. I believe they had 19 wins at this point in the season. But on paper, and I keep saying this team is ridiculously talented on paper. You look at it, this team should be playing much better. You're 4.5 games behind the Mets and not in a place at all that this team should be in. And is it Joe Girardi's fault 100%? No. I mean, this team isn't playing at the level they should be. Joe Girardi can't go out there and play the field. He can't go and bat, but he needs to step up too. And I believe he might be running out of time soon to prove himself to this Phillies fan base that is so ready for a winning team.
Yeah, I agree. I think and of course, he's got a lot of heat. Some of his, and again, when you're losing baseball games, every managerial decision you make in a game is magnified. Because if you're winning games, you make a decision that's wrong and it doesn't work out in your favor. Okay, but we're 7 wins in our last 10 games. We won 7 of our last 10. It's not that big of a deal. When you won 3 of your last 9, right, or 5 of your last 12 games or whatever, or 5 and 12 in our last 17 games, stuff like that's magnified. And when people see losing baseball and they see the product on the field not where it needs to be, that's when the issue comes even higher than what it already is. And that's where I think the problem lies. And again, it's one thing if it's like, okay, the pitching is there, but we're not hitting at a high level, or the accountability's there, we're just getting bad luck. It's a problem right now where everything in the Phillies organization, even with Dave Dombrowski, who's made some moves that have worked out, some moves that have not worked out, but if it would be so much of an easier issue to solve if it was 1 or 2 things to fix. But this is accountability. This is defense. This is bullpen play. This is rotational play. This is hitting, getting on base, even, taking your walks and getting on base, moving the runners over. It's really all facets of the game right now that's causing the issue for the Phillies. And I think bullpen related wise, real quick here, Chase Anderson, David Hale, 2 guys that need to be cut. I'm sorry, they need to be cut and just put on the street somewhere, not in Philadelphia, preferably somewhere in Montana, maybe, that no one knows about. That would help.
Hey, they're in the mountains.
Yeah, somewhere out there, somewhere. Just take them on bus. You're free. Go free now. You can go out there and find a different team. But at the end of the day, those guys aren't major league pitchers. I'm sorry, they're not. And I think when you have guys like that, you need to go out there and count on to get outs for you. You're not going to win too many games, and that's the problem. And I feel like with Wheeler, who's done his job this year, of course, but I don't want to go out here and start making excuses for these pitchers. But the way we're playing baseball games right now, mentally with Eflin, for example, and even Nola, because we've seen much better baseball out of Nola in years past. Do you guys think they're putting a little too much pressure, maybe extra on themselves every time they take them out, knowing the offense is struggling and we're not going to score that many runs? I got to go out there and I got to pitch 7 innings, shut out or maybe 1-run ball.
If you do, then you're not doing your job, your main job as a pitcher, and that is just to go out there and play your game. That's all you can do. You go out there and you play your game. And at the end of the day, your teammates just got to pick it up. You can't worry about what your team's going to do, what your teammates are going to do. You got to do your job. It starts with you. Do your job first. All right. And listen, and on the Aaron Nola thing, I never called him an ace. I never did. You guys used to criticize me all the time about it. I never was convinced that he was an ace. There were stretches where he had ace-like qualities, but an ace does it time in and time out. Now, if you want to argue with me and say who's been an ace for this Phillies team, it's been Zach Wheeler, unquestionably. But Aaron Nola, in my eyes, he's not an ace. Yeah, pitchers struggle too, but not as much as Aaron Nola has been struggling. All right. And look, if Aaron Nola does have that thought in the back of his mind, then he has the wrong mentality approaching the play. I can tell you that right now. Oh, by the way, for all the people that's been, supporting Vince for Last Cash for the past couple weeks, saying stats and whatnot about how he's kept a low ERA and whatnot. Let me tell you something. All right. Shut up. Shut the F up for life. Seriously. What he did was absolutely horrific. That's the reason why I can't stand y'all when y'all be supporting some of these non-MLB players, man. Seriously.
Shut the F up for life. Quote of the day from T.
I tell you what, it's an unfortunate situation because here's the problem. You had to rely on Chase Anderson and Matt Moore, so your options behind that really aren't too appealing either. But I will say this, and this will be my last point of the day before we shut down, or if you guys want to add anything real quick before I'm done, I will say this real fast. Baseball in Philadelphia right now, you have the Sixers, the hot team in town. Baseball, you guys know, is my number one sport, of course, so it hits home a little bit more for me. When a team's playing well, especially in the middle of summertime, it's a place that the bank is popping. It's a place you want to go. It's a place you want to hang out, go with your girlfriend, go with your friends in general, anything, and just relax and enjoy winning baseball. But when your team's struggling, you're playing every single day, 162 games. You're struggling this early on in the season. I mean, it's literally just June 1st. The game of baseball, I feel like, takes a hit, as far as the future of it. And right now, I'm not talking about the X's. I'm not talking about, I shouldn't say the X's and O's. I'm not talking about the product on the field. I'm talking about just the fan base, the people in Philadelphia. I feel like this is what hurts baseball because you guys both know baseball is kind of, in a way, a dying breed, so to speak. People don't want to sit there and watch a 9-inning game on TV. They much rather do something else for their own time and flip it on when it's in the bottom of the 7th inning or something like that. Understandable. But for me, as a diehard fan, I like watching all the games, all 9 innings. I feel like this is a time where you look around Philadelphia and just around the game of baseball. When your team's struggling this bad and it's this early on, you got to think if this continues to trend by the time, it's July 1st, people tune out. I mean, that's the scary thing. I mean, your fan base, especially because you're going to full capacity. But if your team's, if your team's 30 and 60, I mean, who wants to go see that baseball team? And that's kind of where the issue lies as far as the capacity going to 100%. Of course, at first it'll be fun, get out of the house, do something. But the game of baseball right now in Philadelphia, if this continues, it's going on a downhill trajectory right now.
I'll tell you what, tickets will be cheaper. I'll still be going to those games. But to steal a quote from a previous quarterback in this city, you got to give the fans what they want to see. And this Phillies team has not been producing. And it's Max, you're right. It's going to get hard, especially for baseball. Such a long season. People really tune out. People have tuned out already. Yeah, exactly. I saw a headline the other day that baseball is just not what it used to be. And that's obvious. I know a lot of people that have never watched baseball ever. And for in the city specifically, when the sport is struggling as bad as they are to get views, and then on top of that, the Phillies are stinking up the joint, it's not good. It's not good at all.
The scary thing is, if they're out of this thing by July 1st, we're talking a month from now. You still got all of July, you still got all of August, you still got some September. I mean, that's like 2.5 months right there of Phillies baseball that no one's really going to care about. That's what's probably the most difficult thing to stomach for us diehards over here in regard to
mindset for me is going to be just
baseball.
Get it to the Eagles. To be honest with you, they keep getting it that bad by July. My mindset's going to be on the Eagles.
We'll see too. I mean, we're going to pump the brake. I'm confident with the Birds. I'm 10-7 on the Birds, but again,
let's confident.
We could go from Phillies baseball being one of the worst teams in recent. I mean, we've had some bad teams. Don't get me wrong, with the Gabe Kapler years, Pete McCann, things like that. But I mean, this is hit or miss with the Birds upcoming this year. We'll get back into them next week, but it is definitely hit or miss. It can go either way. I'm optimistic. Surprisingly, after I went back through the schedule, I was like, wow, actually, I got 10 wins. I'm like, you know what? I'm sticking with it. I'm confident. And then we'll see what happens. We'll get back into it next week, though. I appreciate everybody sticking with us this week. And, go Sixers, go Phils.
Real quick before we do shut it down, I just have to say something. Y'all fans are stupid. I just want y'all to know that right now. These little instances that's been popping up.
Don't turn us off, guys. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. Don't turn us off. Don't turn us off.
No. Turn me up. Turn me up, dog, on it. All right. What is wrong with y'all? What? You guys are running onto the courts. You guys are spitting on players, throwing popcorn on players, disrespecting players' families. What is wrong with y'all? All right. You guys want another Malice in the Palace situation? What? Listen, just because you pay for tickets, that don't mean that gives you the right to be an asshole. Seriously, get your shit together. That's all I'm saying. I said my piece.
That's fair too. I think the fans a little extra excited to get back into the stands and a little bit. They want a closer experience. They want a closer experience than what they're accustomed to.
Yeah, but you've been away for a year. You would think you would be grateful to have live sports again, and you guys are acting like asses.
They've been watching too much TV for the fans. They forgot how to act in public.
Hey, come on, man. Y'all know y'all was raised better than that. You guys missed any of this episode, you can always go to Philly-Experience.simplecast.com. You can download our content on all platforms, all downloadable platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, entire Shabazz. Yeah. I got to stop going on rants. Well, you know what? Maybe I do need more rants because for some reason when rants happen for me, the players seem to get themselves together. I don't know if you guys know.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm just saying. So maybe we might see a 50-point game from Ben Simmons.
Or Phil's going a 6-game winning streak.
Oh, jeez.
I guess we can dream though, right?
Yeah, you can dream, sure. It's not going to happen.
Oh, your head out your ass! Quit yucking my yum.
We know it's hard.
You dumbass.